the reason I remember that story so well is because you said after he saw you, you finished and then went and talked to him.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I am Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Danae Hughes. We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. Happy Mother's Day. We're recording this on the Day of Moms, I guess.
A day when we should celebrate our mothers.
And
unless they're terrible mothers, and then you celebrate someone who mothered you in a wonderful way.
Except we decided on that day to spend 3 hours recording a podcast.
Yeah.
So what does that say about
I wonder
us?
how many people forgot, like, until yesterday it was Mother's
right.
Day. I mean, it's just so much going on. I mean, it's crazy. I bet
can't believe
moms
it.
forgot.
I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I'm like preparing for the show, and I'm thinking, cool, I'm prepping early. I'm going to be ready for tomorrow. And then, wait, what are we doing? Or do you have something planned for me tomorrow? And he said, well, we'll figure it out. So I probably should have thought about communicating with you guys to potentially not record on Mother's Day, but we're doing this thing.
And less people have cable and stuff, right? So that's the thing. Like, I saw commercials for it like the last couple weeks. It seemed like a lot of people like commercials.
Yeah.
The only thing that I should have put it in my calendar to talk to Justin about it whenever I was seeing the trend on Twitter like 2 weeks ago that was basically like, this is your reminder to buy flowers since XYZ is happening with COVID, and you have XYZ to, order something online and kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mother's Day is coming, but I didn't remember when it mattered. So whoopsie.
The meme I saw was, dads be ready. You're going to actually have to help your kids instead of letting the school or Sunday school do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
No, really, like I have a craft that was that Iris created. I was so touched by it because I thought Justin had helped her make something for me this year, but it turns out he didn't. It was somebody else. Still really sweet. It's the first time she's handed me a craft that she made.
That's a good day.
Mother's Day. And it was really sweet.
Nice.
And then it had like this little thing that she did where the person that helped her create it like asked her a question. If you had $1 million, you would buy your mom. And Iris answered that question and they wrote it in for her, which, by the way, it's a lot of cereal is what she would buy with me.
Yeah, I love those questionnaires. We still have my daughters like from daycare and stuff. They would do stuff like that for various days. Those are awesome to look back on.
Yeah, it's going to be really sweet. I will let you know, the last few times we've recorded, we've had like internet connectivity issues or RAM issues or something like that. I'm using a brand new computer today, and you guys are still cutting out. So I don't know.
Well, you know what I love is that it waited until we actually started the recording. Not during the 30 minutes of pre-talk that ends up in the outtakes. No, let's wait right till the episode, and we'll just have it start cutting out. That's the fun way to do it.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. Let's power through. We can do it. We've done it for the last few weeks. We can.
Let's get into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sinning them, how we felt about the stuff that we are sinning. In TV Sins, we finally got to show you Modern Family.
We're gonna have two videos this week that are like that, where it's like finally.
Yeah. They've been waiting in the wings.
Gets to see them.
Modern Family Caught in the Act was the episode we decided to do. Originally slated to come out when Modern Family wrapped up their series finale.
But instead, it's like 6 weeks later.
But instead, here we are in the middle of May. Before we get into the video, it's a Dicer Watkins script, by the way. Jonathan and I wrote on this. Before we get into the sins and such, I watched every single episode of Modern Family. I really, really enjoyed it those first, I'm going to give it 3 or 4 years that I really enjoyed it. And then it for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the writing or just aging children. Aging children can be difficult sometimes, because they're trying to figure out who they are, both as human beings and as actors.
Yeah, Manny got genuinely creepy. Like,
But that's not a negative thing about him, like his appearance or anything like that. It's just
great.
Yeah, it's just the character developed into kind of a weird place.
This cast is really good though, and I actually kind of liked the finale. I thought the finale was nice, but yeah, no, it started getting, it wasn't as good for sure. But I think this is one more than a lot of sitcoms where if the cast itself is what I think got you through it if you made it.
Yeah.
Because they're just so good together. They feel like a real family.
Yeah.
With probably some sitcom elevations to them.
Yeah, they've probably developed into that. Danae, I know you watched this show, at least at the beginning. Did you fall off? And if so, when?
Ooh, I don't remember when I stopped watching. I think it was definitely before the kids started to age quite a bit. So, like, I totally missed any of them having children of their own. So, I think I know that one of the daughters had a kid, maybe.
Yeah, that's fairly recent, though. That's just the last couple seasons, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I fell off way before that. Maybe it was when, okay, I don't remember any of their names. I got to go look it up.
It was long enough ago that you have wiped it from your memory.
Yeah, Ted Bundy's wife.
It's not Ted Bundy. That would be a serial killer.
You're watching a different Modern Family.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That was really
Al
funny.
Bundy.
Out of all Bundys, you picked that one. I thought that was
Al Bundy.
Yeah.
Well, this is why you guys love to.
It's Ed Bundy. I don't even know where I got that from.
Well, his real name is Ed, right?
That's right. He's Ed O'Neill.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Anyway, that couple they had maybe just had a kid. That's how.
Joe. So that you made it a little ways.
Yeah, you made it a few seasons.
I don't remember a lot about like it enough to keep going. I remember feeling the same thing that we've talked about before, which is when a series starts to sort of stretch and maybe tries to find new ways of getting creative and finding their magic and forgetting where the original magic was. But for me, my husband and I like to watch this one together because we are Claire and Phil. So,
it's
I
funny.
See that.
It's funny you say that, and then immediately people are going to assume so much about your marriage based on this series that you're going to have to explain.
Yeah, let us know when Iris walks in on you mid thrust.
Yes, exactly. That is the episode we decided to do, Caught in the Act. I do think this is one of the episodes when the show really was kind of hitting on all cylinders. The writing here, is great. They've kind of figured out what they're doing, and it's a fun premise. So certainly not without sin, though. So we did the video. Danae, since you didn't write on this, what are some of your thoughts on the video?
I didn't remember this episode until it got to the part where the daughter was, washing her eyes out in the sink, and then I remembered that moment, and that brought a smile to my face. And but it was interesting too because again, you're putting on the sin lens, and you're thinking about the things that don't work, and the C plot with Cam and making the stain on the floor or whatever, and just how kind of silly all of that is. That's kind of the fun of the show in a way, is this sort of forced drama that just is ridiculousness. And Cam, that relationship always seems to have that like dramatic edge to it, that their huge issue is they're really superficial, but then they're also really deep at the same time. So there's always some kind of a shenanigan over there, but there's a lot of people in the show, a lot of relationships to kind of touch on. So yeah, I enjoyed watching the Sins video quite a bit. I had a nice little chuckle several times, like the Phil and Claire tango and all the different ways of describing the awkward, walk in, but then also being like, why wouldn't you have turned your head, or like all the things that were pointed out in that moment. If you want me to just go right into the sins that I liked.
Yeah. No, that's great. Go ahead.
Well, and I want to know, because, they obviously, because of the censors, they have to have the sheets over them. But like, what an awkward, those sheets are not on them in real life. Because how would you keep them on you? You'd have to be purposely holding a sheet while you were thrusting or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they were both, if it was real life, and they would be like pulling them up over the top of them to sort of like, I'm guessing doggy style in a fort is what they were going for.
Which, if you're Phil, that probably is a thing he likes. So
yeah, probably.
Or apparently Justin Hughes.
That's right.
Who I told suck it on Twitter last night. That was fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was really fun. I really, really enjoyed Jeremy's delivery of like treasures buried in the dying noise cliche. That's a new one. Sort of popped up that thought was really fun timing. The knock knock joke was hilarious. Who was responsible for the knock knock joke?
That
Aaron,
was me. Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, your mom.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I am very ashamed.
I laughed so hard at that though. So congratulations
what was it? I'm in?
there.
Knock knock.
Yeah.
I'm in your mom. Yeah, that's what it was.
And then you added that's what your mom said or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Which is funny because I've tried to get it. That's what she said. Like I tried to be creative with it. That's what she said a few times, and it always got taken out like by Chris or somebody. So I finally gave up, and then Aaron got one in.
Well, I hope you were able to use it for your Mother's Day. That knock knock joke with your mom. I hope.
Gross. What the hell, dude?
Made it weird.
So, speaking of like, that's what she said, your mom, like that weird awkwardness. I just reminded me of something my husband and I were joking because he really loves The Office, and so like he's very Michael Scott in some of his humor, where he'll just say things, and it's always sort of like if there's anything mildly sexual that I say, he'll be like, yeah, that's like just that whole thing, and it drives me crazy.
So he's also kind of like Barney.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I just want to have a conversation that doesn't have an undertone. And I said something along the lines of, oh, it is so hard being married to Michael Scott. He goes, that's what she said. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. And he's like, but you said hard.
You said the word hard, so it must make sense.
Anyway, that's my life.
That is very Phil. That is very Phil, by the way.
And the other thing I really loved about this one was the TSA officer stuff.
Yeah.
Even going down in the comments, I don't want to take anyone's comment for the comment section, but Stephen Harrows said something really fun about being a TSA officer. Did you guys see that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, go ahead. Read what he said.
Because yes, as a TSA officer, I'm glad someone finally realizes that we don't want to touch you or go through your stuff. Get stuff out of your pockets and stop packing all the crazy stuff. And then Jeremiah says, tell us, have they ever actually found any terrorists during baggage, x-rays, and metal detectors? And Steven says, you'd be surprised at how many guns are quote unquote forgotten to be in bags. People try to sneak all sorts of foolish and dangerous things through every day. You've probably been on a plane with someone on a watch list before and never knew it, but they get specialized screening. So then I went on there and commented about the time that I forgot that I had a pocket knife with me.
I was gonna say it's very easy actually
to
get put on a watch list. It's not hard.
No, and so then this person, Steven, replied to me and said, sure, you forgot. Like it was just this fun kind of back and forth.
No, like I've had friends that like they had a knife. Like my father-in-law, he had a pocket knife on an old keychain.
Yeah.
And I mean, he forgot that he usually threw his keys in his luggage and he just forgot to do it. And, they just took it away. I don't think he got put on a no-flight list, but depending on the person that stops you, you can be put on a no-flight list pretty easily. So, I mean, not a no-flight, whatever you call that, warning or whatever.
Yeah, I realized it was with me before I even got on the line, and I threw it in a trash bin that was out kind of in like the main area. So, but still, bummer to lose my pocket knife that I really enjoyed.
If you're ever looking for a pocket knife or a corkscrew or
nail file,
yeah, just look in the trash cans right outside of the TSA. Because
my hoodie and my pair of shoes that I had to throw away to get my bag down to the correct weight.
Oh, that's the worst.
Literally had to throw away my clothes.
So you didn't have to pay like $20 or whatever.
It was like $50.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Anyway, so that was kind of fun. A fun side effect to videos oftentimes for me is the conversations that happen in the comments, and that was one of them. So,
well, I was so glad to see it because I really do find that joke a little bit. I mean, I don't get offended, but it's a little bit inconsiderate, right? Like the idea that TSA agents, because they see Sofia Vergara, are going to cop a feel or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it's very Jay though. Like
yes,
Jay would
fits
make that
character.
comment. I mean, I guess that's but we're gonna send it because that's what we do.
Somebody else pointed out in the comments though that it might have been because she's Colombian.
Well,
then, we weren't going for that.
Well, that's not
that's not what I
wasn't
thought.
the intent. Jonathan, what do you got?
I just like you were talking about the Cam and Mitch subplot. That's like I think the weakest part of the show, and we send that quite a bit. So I liked all that stuff that we jumped on that for, because that seemed a little just, I don't know, that seemed like we got to have Cam and Mitch doing something.
Yeah.
So let's just do this. Although I will say the funniest part of the show for me is when they're at the shawarma place at the end. And the guy says Mitch, and then Cam's like, "Oh, he knew your name."
That's funny. That's funny.
That was a great like ending note, for the episode.
Yeah.
But no, so I enjoyed all that, and then just I did like that I got the line in there. I'm not sure why Gloria's head isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Parents on computers. And this was definitely me, because I don't know. I think it's so funny when people are so weird about when they eat dinner, but I was like, eat your fucking dinner at 5:15 and shut up. Like, what were they complaining about? That was the worst thing about that subplot. It was like, you had a reservation. Like,
I know.
none of this needed to happen.
It almost feels contrived.
Yeah, almost feels contrived. Yes, but yeah, no, that was insane. And then there's a little bit of that subplot that has to do with my keeping tabs too. But yeah, no, it was a really fun one to work on. I'm glad it's finally out there. I'm glad people are actually still watching it, even though it's kind of past the point of when we wanted to release it. But it still works really well.
The only things you guys didn't mention that I had written down were the also known as parenting line. I really liked. I thought that was good. And then just the idea that when this came out, so many years ago, Phil says the line, "It's like you're shaking hands, but not using your hands at all." Like, how is that not exactly what we're going through right now? So, like, it's just like, I couldn't believe it.
We're finding that a lot. Like,
isn't that interesting?
We've actually, there's been many things where that's popped up in various things. So
that one is just so specific, though. It kind of blew my mind.
Oh, yeah. No, that one was dead on.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to How I Met Your Mother slap bet, except for no slap bet. This was a Hughes Watkins script, and again, I don't watch How I Met Your Mother, but Jonathan, I think you watch a little bit of it, don't you?
Yeah, no, this is if we're talking about, like, we were talking about this with the Archer episode last week. If we're talking about like your personal favorite episodes of a sitcom, like, this is a GOAT for me. Like, this is in the conversation. Like, I love this episode. This is my favorite How I Met Your Mother episode by a long shot.
What's interesting about it, and what we have to address right off the bat,
I know Danae hated it, so that's always fun. No, but
off the top, we have to address, because it's in the comments, it's called slap bet, but you didn't talk about the slap bet. You're just dealing with the 1-2 punch of an episode where the thing that it's about isn't what it's titled, but also the title became a thing that the series is about. And so it's this weird, the slap bet continues, for my understanding from what I've read.
It does. It continues for a couple more seasons.
But it's not really in this episode, so there's not really a lot to talk about it.
It's kind of like the trivia game. I mean, we did get into the trivia thing because it was so much, but we didn't really get much into, like, the Friends episode with the trivia game. That one's actually called the one with Phoebe's embryos or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Which the trivia game is what everybody talks about. Just like in this episode, I think what most people talk about is the outstanding reveal that Robin is a former teenage pop star in Canada, which is just one of, like, I still remember seeing this when it aired. And I think that's why it stuck with me, because I still think that's a great reveal. Like, because there could have been so many things that could have been her secret. And, like, you're just not expecting that. And then they made a song out of it. And then the Robin Sparkles storyline continues. You find out that she did a couple other videos. Alan Thicke plays himself. She did a video with Alan Thicke in a later episode, and there's a lot of they get a lot of mileage out of that too. And but like a lot of these things, both of those plot lines are funniest in this specific episode. Yeah, they kind of lose their luster, in, like, a lot of sitcoms when they go back to the well too many times.
So, Danae, was there anything about this episode and watching it that made you like the show more or like the show less?
Nope. I am not I think I'm watching it too late, because
You might be.
Barney really pisses me off. Like,
yeah,
he's kind of like a Michael Scott, where maybe that offensive character was sort of fun to grow into as the show released, or to kind of, like, find those qualities, but when you're not watching the show every single episode, and there's just a part of his
I think the
personality.
actor in that scenario, though, if you watch the entire series, I think the actor is what helps that character work for people. Because Neil Patrick Harris.
I mean, Neil is great.
Yeah, I know you're not knocking Neil, and just like we weren't knocking the guy that played Manny, but I know what you're saying. And watching, I mean, I find Barney less funny the more I go back to the show.
He's horrible.
I like him in the role, but I know what you're saying. He's not nearly as funny.
I just fuck this show. That's all. I think the other part of doing any kind of show where there's all these relationships that you're just kind of missing out on is that you don't really understand what's connecting them together because you lack all of the background and the shows and stuff. And this one for me was really, really strange. The sin that I wanted to that I tried to kind of fight for was that she's supposed to be this commissioner person for this slap that it happens, but to me there was already like a breakdown in the rules because both the lead writer and the shadow on this one were like, well, it could be explained this way, and I'm like, yeah, but for someone who's watching it, the way that the whole slapping thing happened, she technically didn't say something the first time and she technically didn't say it the second, so there wasn't like a consistency for me. Then it was brought in that like later on it works itself out. So I didn't like who slaps their friends? That's dumb. Like that bothered me. But then the I guess the crowning moment of this is just the ridiculous reveal of this song, which I hate to say got stuck in my head, and I super liked. I super liked the song. I super liked seeing the actress be able to just do this over the top 80s 90s pop star moment. I kind of got into it, and I really wish we could play the whole song on our channel just so that we could almost rickroll everyone, because this should be the rickroll. More people should know about this song. I had no idea it was coming. I had no idea it was about to happen, and that needs to change. We need to make sure that this is the new thing. It has to happen. I need everybody to get on board.
Yeah, those are the two moments that the two moments, the payoffs for Robin and then the payoff with the slap bet are, I think, why I like this episode so much. Because I know the slap bet is silly, and I get that most people would not slap their friends, but that moment where Marshall slaps Barney, where I took I think that's hilarious, but maybe that's just me.
I enjoyed
there's so much shaming in this episode. And that's the part about Barney that makes me crazy. There's transgender shaming, there's ageism, there's virgin shaming, there's Canada shaming and porn shaming and boob shaming. There's every kind of it's all of that coming from one character. Yeah. So that was really
I mean,
it's just not it's not fun to watch when every few minutes you're like, okay, that's just dirty.
He's a terrible person, but what I don't understand for some people, I don't know what you think of shows like this, but like, for instance, like Seinfeld, I mean, every main character on Seinfeld is a horrible person. I mean,
and I don't watch that one. And I think a lot of it's obviously humor evolves and things like that. Outside of Barney, like this episode is about also a boyfriend that's not able to handle the fact that his girlfriend doesn't want to tell him something about her past. And so it's like him going around to all the friends and breaking confidence and trust. And so
I think Ted has aged worse than Barney, to be honest. Ted is a pretty bad main character in a lot of these episodes. And thankfully, this episode isn't a lot about him. So I think that helps also.
Well, anybody who wants to sit their kids down and tell them about all the details of their entire sex life.
You give every detail about Barney. Like, he's telling his kids about Barney. Like, we're seeing Barney. I mean, you have to remember that too. I mean, that's another interesting thing about the show is we're seeing everybody through his perspective. He's the one telling the story.
It's weird. Anyway, it's not my favorite to do, but I'm glad that the audience is to be liking it.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say this also, which we didn't really send it because there wasn't a really good moment to send there. But the another great running joke from this show starts in this episode too, where Marshall tells Ted he has to lawyer her. That becomes a big running gag throughout the show. That's just, I don't know, another fun note to mention.
On to the sins for the episode. I'll start since you guys wrote on it. I really enjoyed it. It starts right off with the has as much narration as Outlander has sex and, well, narration, which I thought was great. 30 minutes later, you have fruit pancakes. I thought that whole section was hilarious.
And Danae was right. Danae told me people would get pissed about that, and they did. So.
Of course. Yeah, totally.
I had that feeling, like I'm reading it. I'm like, dude, I love this. Prepare yourself. Gird your loins.
Yeah. Well, and she asked me if I knew that there were other things other than fruit. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, and I asked her if there was a way to rewrite it. And she said, no, keep it as is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it. Just prepare yourself.
By the way, if they were crepes that had like meat in them or those kind of things, like sausage crepes, which I've seen, I mean, just come on. Just that's all the sins in the world right there, as far as I'm concerned. That's just dumb. All right. Now you can be mad at me too. See, we're just trying to make everybody mad at all of us. I also liked the shaming sin skills are going to have to go up a notch after the 3 shaming sins in a row. I thought was good. No, it's not. Ted, you send that waffle back. Thank you for the shout out to all of us who need permission to tell the waiters they got our food wrong. I really appreciated that.
Danae made that one better. I had written something and Danae was like, I think this will make it better. And she was right.
And then finally, I'm guessing there's a 0% chance. Really made me laugh to hear Jeremy go into the Canadian accent for a second. That was a lot
I actually
of fun.
wrote that. I don't know if Semser listens to us, but our friend Jeremy Semser, who lives in somewhere, is he in Toronto? I can't remember. He's in Canada.
Yeah.
But
I thought Vancouver, but it's all, you know.
Maybe it's Vancouver, but he tweeted about something about how nobody really says that, which I'm sure they don't. So I purposely put that in there
to troll him. Oh,
yep.
No.
As somebody who grew up in Michigan, yes, they do. They absolutely pronounce their O's that way. At least they did when I was growing up, and we'd go over to Sarnia or wherever across the border. Maybe it's an Ontario thing. I don't know, but they absolutely 100% talked that way. They were out in a boot, and we definitely heard that a lot. So, yeah. So, Simser, you're wrong. What am I doing? Did I take pain medication? Why am I so mad at people today? All right. What did you guys want to bring up from the video that I haven't mentioned?
I really had a good time with the Cinnabon one because I was sort of trying to reference my ridiculousness in eating half of a jelly bean, making fun of myself for being the kind of person who would split a Cinnabon. So I kind of channeled the shock and hatred of everyone who gives me shade about how I eat sweets into that one. And
can I just say? I mean, Cinnabons are big, though, right? There's a little bit of difference between splitting a Cinnabon and splitting a jelly bean. You know, like I feel like you're trying to let yourself off the hook for the jelly bean.
I don't know, dude. I mean, like I don't split a donut though with people,
right?
Like, I mean, Cinnabons are no bigger than donuts.
Cinnabons are 3 times the size of donuts.
Some of them, not all of them.
Oh, like the Cineminis.
I'm with Jonathan on this one.
I've eaten like 4 Cinnabons before. Like I
also liked playing with the idea of inserting our own audience reaction track on this one.
Yeah, that was fun.
I had that written down. Yeah, that was a good one. You talking about when the thing about him saying "aw"? Yeah. I thought that was great. I also liked where you wrote the thing about keep fucking her till Barney does. That was perfect.
No one shocked you. That's one where I figure people would like think that you wrote that one, but I only know that that's happened because you're the How I Met Your Mother guru, and so you've kind of brought me up to speed.
I'm a ninja, and I know a lot about How I Met Your Mother.
Did you see
my contributions to life?
Did you see in the comments that somebody was 100% sure I wrote the virgin shaming joke?
I'll tell you about the shaming jokes. That's funny, but like I wrote like 3, and I'm like, there's a lot of fucking shaming. I mean, there's just like it's crazy. Like this is ridiculous.
I wrote several too. In fact,
yes.
we both wrote one about the boobs.
Yes.
Mine was like shaming the A cup, like shaming the size because it's all about like everybody's got to have big boobs. It's like, what about? I mean, why are we shaming boob size? And so then we flipped it around because I actually worked quite a number of revisions just to get the shaming thing where we wanted it to be. It turned out really great though, Jonathan.
Yeah, and we cut what happened, I remember this too, because we cut a sin that was in between some of them, and when we cut that, we actually had 3 in a row.
Yeah,
so since we had those 3 in a row, we got rid of the other couple.
Because once again, this episode is littered with shame.
But we did A-cup shaming was definitely a sin that hit the cutting room floor, but not because it was bad, but because it just didn't work with. Like I said, a lot of this has to do with the flow, like interrupting the flow of the script.
Sure,
I know we've talked about that before, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, overall, great job, guys. I laughed a lot. So well done. Let's move on to music video sins. Megan Thee Stallion, Hot Girl
Time
Summer.
to talk about the human twerkipede. Let's do it.
That was awesome.
I don't want to talk about this song. After we talked about Hot Girl Bummer last week and just like,
Yeah.
I'm going to end up saying a lot of the same stuff.
This music video is shocking. I definitely really had to songs are really incredible.
Huh?
Thongs.
You know, they are such a little amount of fabric that covers so much at the same time.
Does it?
It's such a weird thing. And it's funny because we're going to talk about thongs in the near future about another thing that we're writing on, and thongs come into play for that one too. I've never watched someone twerk in slow motion until this Sins video. So I guess thanks for that.
Are you talking about the what was it? The
Twerk off?
the epic ass battle of 2019?
Yeah. Yeah.
Barrett wrote some great stuff on this one. This was when I was watching the edit. I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Yeah, really.
This is really funny.
I was dying during the double twerk move deciding the governor of California. That whole section was just so funny. And you mentioned the human twerkipede and like,
but that one was like in the style of almost Steve Irwin. It sort of had that vibe to it.
Right?
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so rare to see this out in the wild.
Yeah.
I also Nicki Minaj. I mean, like it's gotten to the point now where it's like, try to name a song she's not on, and like I don't even know how she has the time or the energy to do all this. Man, she's in so many songs. It's kind of impressive, and it is impressive. I mean, I actually kind of dig her quite a bit, but it's not necessarily my favorite type of music, but it's always entertaining. But yeah, I agree with you, Aaron. This song's, I mean, it's not for me.
The song is horrible, but I'm glad it exists because now we have this video where we also like learn about all of these twerking things. There's so much. There's like the rumble taint maneuver that we learned about. Have her titties out. Like we're just like, what?
Well, and Barrett and I have
this
joked
is
before.
like, what am I watching? I'm concerned with watching like horror movies, and then this is just like in my dreams.
Barrett and I have joked about how you can get tired of watching ass, and so I thought that was great that he put us in.
It was so
here.
good.
Yeah, it's like
we did a City
congratulations.
Girls video one time, and we talked about that because I mean it's just like, you're just like,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like
they're beautiful women, but it's like, come on.
You can almost hear the way that he's delivering it, where he's just like, okay. His like, okay. And we're like the problems with twerking too close to the gas grill. That's just really good information for a number of reasons, and it's like that's just so
like
funny. And then
Iris should watch this. She could learn a lot from
no,
that.
I'm gonna have her watch it later on. And then like at the very end, you've got these two women who are like basically half off of chairs with just their asses in the air, and I'm like, this is Olympics of ass twerking. I've never seen anything like it. Anyways, I feel like I've learned something today, and I want to thank Barrett.
Yeah. Congratulations, video. You made me hate butts. Like you did
And
the
also,
impossible.
we know that's
hate
not
butts.
Megan.
No. I think this is like a next level of appreciation for butts. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it can be both things, right? Like it can be next level of appreciation, and also I'm tired of it now. Well, I'm glad, Danae. I'm glad that you didn't reach your fill of butts. I'm glad you're still loving the butts. More butts. Bring on more butts.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying it's understandable. I remember after I saw Showgirls when it came out in '95, somebody was asking me about it, and my comment was, I never thought I could get sick of seeing naked breasts. And then I found out when I watched Showgirls, I could.
I'll let you know if I grow tired of the butts. Maybe I'm new to twerking. I'll be very honest and open with you.
You never know.
After this video, I was inspired. I thought I can do this, and so I threw my hip out, and I have an appointment with my chiropractor. But there's still time.
Did you cancel that? Did you cancel that Amazon order of the dozen thongs they had on sale? Or?
No. I just added some Epsom salt to the order.
Nice.
And like one of those massage balls that you can kind of like wrap around to your own back. I did that.
Nice.
I'm all in.
It reminds me in a weird way. I was having a conversation with somebody about getting desensitized to butts. We've been watching a lot of Naked and Afraid, and there's so many butts in that show. People are walking around naked.
I do not know how you watch that show.
And they don't, blur the butts. They blur below the butts because sometimes stuff sneaks in from the back.
Angles.
Yeah, angles.
That show is just so unhygienic. I don't know how you watch it.
Well, I'm not the hygiene police. I lick desks.
No, I don't know, but that's true.
But only once.
But only once.
You make it sound like it's something you do every week.
What did you say?
I lick desks.
Oh, I thought you said I licked that ass. I was very confused. And then Danae's like, only once. And I'm like, how does Danae know this? I mean, I thought it was weird that Aaron would say that, so I was just kind of letting it go. But
only that one time, Aaron.
And then they installed Windows.
The off chance that anybody else misunderstood, I'm kind of glad we clarified. So maybe we should just move on. Let's move on now.
All right, let's move on to the CinemaSins videos for the week. We'll start with Lemony Snicket in a series of unfortunate events. This was a Hugh Scott script, so Danae and Jeremy writing on this.
That is a fun combo, by the way. I have found that combo produces some outstanding videos.
I agree.
Thanks.
Good work. I don't remember this movie. I know I saw it when it came out, and I think I just flushed it from my memory, which is saying something for a Jim Carrey movie because I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan.
Yeah.
But I just didn't enjoy it. I was just not having a good time watching the movie, even with Jim Carrey in it. And I don't know if it was at a time where I was just like, I'd rather go back and watch Ace Ventura or, Cable Guy or something that I already know and love than to see, I don't know, his shtick didn't work for me in this movie. What did you guys think?
I will say it's interesting that our second movie this week is Halloween, and this is the most disturbing of the two. But no, my daughter and I read most of these books together last summer, and then we watched the movie, and I had never seen it before. And even though I just saw it last summer, I didn't remember much about it. So I'm kind of like you, but within less amount of time to think about it, it's pretty forgetful. And it does this weird thing too. I hate when movies do this. And the TV show, actually, Neil Patrick Harris, speaking of him, is pretty good on Netflix. If you're interested in that, what the TV show did was it did each book over 2 episodes each. Whereas this movie tried to cram 3 books into an hour and 45 minutes or whatever it was, which was a terrible, terrible idea. And it also made things cringier than they were in the books.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like the marriage thing is cringy in the sense that like he's a bad guy and he's trying to do something despicable, but never in the book does it insinuate that she's going to be rubbing his bunions or whatever he says in the movie.
Yeah.
There's never anything sexual.
That's interesting because somebody actually they quoted that part of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't remember that.
I thought that when they quoted it, there was something about her fulfilling her wifely duties or something like this.
Yeah,
which if you're a kid, you're going to read that one way. And if you're an adult, you're going to read that another way.
But I think it specifically says in the book, I could be wrong. It's been a year, but it could be like, I think it was more like she would cook for him and stuff. But the main thing was he was obviously trying to steal the money. That was the main thing.
My husband and I went on a walk with our kid after I finished the script, and Justin was asking me, how was the movie? What'd you think of it? And I said, well, let me tell you, this is a movie about a murderer who's trying to kidnap children for their money and marry the young ones so he has money. And he straight up kills people regularly throughout the film, but they kind of just, we're just going to move over that real quick. And then they try to Jim Carrey-esque it where you don't really, I was very confused as I watched it the first time, not knowing where it was going to land. Is this going to be a redeemable character or, he's just killed someone? Okay. So is he going to be redeemed? Oh, he just killed another person. Oh, is he going to be like, cause he's kind of playing into it like he's supposed to be funny. Like we're watching this and it's supposed to kind of be entertaining when it's not. And it feels like a really mismatched role for Jim Carrey in a way, because it's going to be like if it's someone who's quirky and evil, that's like kind of like one thing, but like Jim Carrey's production is he tries to make it more entertaining and like animated with his jaw movements and his his arms and just how he presents himself. And for several times I thought, if this wasn't this movie, I think I would enjoy his acting here? And he's doing exactly what he should be doing. He's a terrible person, and I don't like him, and that's what it should be. But then why is this this is a very dark kids movie or whatever? And also it kind of falls apart in a way too, where and maybe it's falling into this thing where if you read the books, narrator maybe is somebody who's like learning as you go somehow, but the narrator lives in the future and is doing research on what happened to the children. And so when they say things, when the narrator says things like, me and my colleagues are trying to find out what happened, but we don't know. It's like, no, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
They're just trying to like point out that you're trying to build this sort of like false tension. Just don't say anything right now. And it doesn't, don't stop talking. Does this thing like Princess Bride does, where it sort of cuts out when the scary parts happen. There's a jump scare moment where this fantastical snake pops out and like appears out of nowhere, and it's like this big open mouth. Horrible, by the way.
That's a great comparison, by the way. Princess Bride is a great comparison.
Well, and just in that moment, because in Princess Bride, she's in the water, and here come the eels, and the mouth pops out, and then it cuts back to him, and he's reading the book to his grandson or whomever. And in this one, you cut to, oh, sorry, my typewriter just stopped working. Which, by the way, at no point is the typewriter actually saying the words that are being spoken on. None of that even matches up. So it's just a weird, like, what is going on? Obviously, there's supposed to be some mystery about this secret group that has telescopes and this bad guy and all that stuff. And that could be really, really interesting. And kids don't live happy lives. And there is something important about showcasing the darker stories that happen so that children have stories that can relate to their brokenness, because that's real. And I think that there's something there that's important. But I just don't know how to movie could have been done in such different ways. And yeah, maybe they're trying to cram too much in one movie, or maybe, Jim Carrey's Popeye-esque weirdness was just not flying for me, but it was just a hard one to watch and be like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. It was kind of easy to just pick apart.
It's hard to pinpoint what doesn't work, because you can have a dark kids movie that can be like Harry Potter's really good, or like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, something like that, that totally works.
Yeah,
but this
doesn't.
Like, I don't know why.
Kids fall in rivers and are sucked up tubes that are being sent to heaters and stuff, or what? Boiling rooms.
They lick snozberries off walls and trip. Yep.
Jeremy wrote a sin on this one. This is like Miss Peregrine's Tim Burton Presents Harry Potter and the BFG Spiderwick Compass. I thought that was such a perfect feeling about this sort of strange dark world that's just hitting like what you're quote unquote supposed to do, but really failing at helping me understand what makes these kids stand out besides I guess a photographic memory and being inventive at some points in time, and then having sharp teeth. They didn't do a very good job in the movie of really helping me understand.
They missed the mark when they did the adaptation,
or even their relationship with each other. Because I think that they're probably trying to kind of express that they had made some kind of family for each other even through a dark time, and I think that's a really valuable thing to think about as well. Solving crimes sort of has, I loved Nancy Drew and like kids crimes kind of stuff. I loved that stuff when I was little. Like the idea of somebody that's just my age or whatever can be special and like save the world or save my family. It's a fun thing to kind of be able to just like press into. And it was also kind of a bummer for me too, because there were some visual aspects of this that I really enjoyed as well. So really it was just the story kind of not working for me. The music was fun. The visuals were fun. Feeling so gross whenever he tips the spittoon over and it's all the pasta coming out, and just that split second of wondering if it was spit. That stuff, that is the kind of fun, gross stuff you see in a kid's movie. But when you're murdering people with leeches, it's a little bit like, okay.
that spittoon with the pasta is pretty much so summarizes what I think of Naked and Afraid. So if you want to go back, no, I'm kidding. No, that is really gross. I'm also glad you guys sent Sunny, because she is annoying as hell in the books too. Like that is just the most ridiculous character. I don't know why they have to have a baby sister, but she's frustrating. I'm like an adult reading these kids' books and like, God, I hate this person. Like, why is this person here?
What else did you like about the video, Jonathan? Why don't you go through some of the sins you liked?
Well, the sin about the children's attraction level, like the narration there at the beginning.
Reasonably attractive. Who says that about kids?
Oh God, yeah, that's crazy.
So weird.
That's going in my next erotic fiction novella.
Mm-hmm.
I thought was great. The no shit, just ask my penis was another favorite of mine. And I love when we can do the discounts where we're like so shocked that person's actually in the movie. And this time it was Dustin Hoffman, because you are like, what the fuck is Dustin Hoffman doing here? Like, it's like, why is he in this movie?
Yeah.
And then the glass
Jonathan.
house sin about Dustin Hoffman was also very funny. I didn't know exactly.
Jeremy's.
Jeremy?
I think I said those were all Jonathans. I meant to say those are all Jeremy's.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then I don't know. Aaron will probably mention that one, so I'll leave that one. But I loved the sentence to the lemonade. You guys using the iced tea commercial where everybody keeps saying iced tea, and he's like, "No, man, it's lemonade."
Yeah. Yeah. I loved Badgers. I thought that was great. Are there certain things when you're writing and you see a movie that you just light up when they happen on screen? For me, one of those things are board games. Whenever somebody's playing a card game or a board game or something like that, my sin brain lights up. I love that stuff. So I was very happy to see somebody send the Scrabble, the fact that they could both just look at each other's Scrabble pieces.
Did you do the Jumanji?
Yes.
Were you on the Jumanji script?
Yes.
The original Jumanji, the 95 one.
In fact, I wrote a 5-paragraph sin about the board game, the board game sins that we just cut down to basically we cut it down to say, I just wrote a 5-paragraph thing, but here are all the sins from it. And then I actually produced that sin as a separate video on my own YouTube channel. So it's actually
for Sif Pop, right?
Yeah, it's actually the most viewed video on Sif Pop. so yeah.
Yeah, because I thought that was you. Yeah, I remember all this now. All this is coming back. Yeah, you definitely you pay attention to the board games.
Yeah, because you know why? They have rules. And it makes it easy to go, you broke the rules, so
yeah. Same reason I get excited about when a time limit gets introduced. into the story.
Exactly. It's that kind of thing. So I was really appreciative to see the Scrabble stuff. Like to bite things and had sharp teeth. College girlfriend joke was really funny. All the lamp stuff, lamp.
Yeah, I figured you would mention that. So
great, absolutely wonderful. The arrows sell it. It's so good. Maybe don't always allow improv on your set. Was perfectly placed. The thrilling sequential order of locks. For whatever reason, the phrasing on that slayed me. Just ahead of hangnails and invasive species was another great turn of phrase. And was Olaf always this Jim Carrey is such a great point and a great way to phrase that. The idea that it's like, obviously you took a character from a book and you made him Jim Carrey instead of thinking, what is this character in this book and who embodies that the best?
Yeah, because if you put the Grinch makeup on him, would you know any different?
No.
I mean, it'd be the same performance. I love Jim Carrey. I'm not. I mean, he's amazing, but yeah, I don't know. It just didn't gel here for whatever reason. Maybe he shouldn't do kids movies. I don't know. Maybe it's just a little too dark for that. I don't know.
Danae, did you have anything else you wanted to mention that we didn't cover?
I really liked Jeremy's the seating in theater too, and then this joke killed before the pandemic. I thought that was just a fun one to throw in. There's this moment, when he's sending the state of the building and how dilapidated it was, and comparing it how to in reality none of this would fly, and then he says, "And now to the basement with actual lava in it." I love Jeremy's sins. In fact, almost every single one you guys have mentioned is his, and they're super fun. I love that he also said it's most fortunate that they survived this, because there are several times when it's just like, how are they even making it out of the situation? It's not really an unfortunate event. It's fortunate you're surviving this. I thought that was a good turn on his head. I wanted to point out that Ghost said in the comments, Jeremy is worried about Sunny's teeth after opening a can, so we shouldn't tell him about the part in the books where she sword fights someone with said teeth or climbed an elevator shaft with them. I just was like, what even is this?
When Iris is like 8 or 9, I highly recommend you grabbing these. They're fun to read with your kid.
I think I'll skip them.
They're Harry. I mean, they're kind of Harry Potter light, but they're good.
Let's move on to Halloween 2018 in the first week of May. So, as you might surmise, this was originally ready
Actually,
to go and delayed
we
a
were
little bit.
writing this at the same time you guys were doing Downton Abbey.
That's right.
Yep.
That's very
We had
true.
Because you guys
Curses.
were in town, and Chris and I were working on this, and you guys were working on Downton Abbey.
Yeah, so last
Mhm.
fall, which makes sense.
Yep.
But I am so glad we got around to doing this. I am of the opinion that this movie is all surface level excellence. Like there's a lot of surface level like quality to it, but once you start digging into it, it's a pretty bad movie underneath the surface.
Yeah, there's good things about it, and we took a couple of sins off for those few things, but it's a good looking movie. But
Yeah.
and
I have to
it
say-
seems to surprise people when I say this, but no, I did not like it.
I have to say it was interesting because I did watch this one.
Cool. I'm glad you
I just
did.
had a feeling like this was going to be okay.
Mhm.
Like a certain level of lameness that I could handle. Like, I don't know. I've never watched any of his movies. I know the name Mike Myers, but I have zero context. So watching this Sins video where it's kind of ripping apart even the previous show, the previous movies rather, and like the choosing what to kind of keep in canon and not to keep in canon was really fun for me to watch this one get kind of ripped apart. There was a lot of really good things that were being pointed out as
I'm
far
glad
as
you liked it.
the ridiculousness of how any of this would actually work. And I feel like I could tell like Jonathan's passion for this type of movie or these movies in general was really coming through as far as this doesn't hold up when you start throwing water on it. This just falls apart.
Chris and I were on the same page. He said something about this too. I don't want to steal anything he says.
Oh, did Chris write some stuff on this?
Yeah, he actually did. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, go for it.
My name is Chris, and I'm writing about. Oh, is that obvious? I don't have it pulled up yet.
Hello.
Actually, can I ask
My
one question
name
though, real
is
quick?
Christopher.
If we're talking about just our opinions on the movie, Aaron, have you seen the original Halloween?
I have.
Okay. Do you like it?
Well, I didn't.
Or do you remember it?
I didn't make my Twitter handle after it or anything, but
Hey, that's also Psycho. To be fair, it's same
you're
character
right.
name.
No,
two
you're
movies.
right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I have a difficult relationship with slasher flicks because I don't understand the joy of the slasher dynamic. So I get why Halloween was popular, and when I watched it, it was several years after it came out. But no, I did not personally enjoy it.
But the original Halloween is not the original Halloween's what they. I mean, it's more like a proto slasher, right? I mean, it kind of set some guidelines
Yes.
for what like Friday the 13th and stuff did after that.
Yes, totally.
But I mean, Carpenter, that's the only one he directed, and I think Carpenter's really good with suspense.
He is.
I mean, Roger Ebert compared it to Psycho and compared Carpenter to Hitchcock, and I totally agree. I think Carpenter knows how to direct a suspense scene,
Yes,
as good as anybody.
Yeah, and you can
ever
tell.
has.
You can tell in the original Halloween that he knows what he's doing. I will say, he also did The Thing, right?
Oh yeah, the remake of The Thing, 1982, yeah.
Yeah. So I recently watched that for the first time,
Mhm.
and this may shock some people. Kind of loved it.
It's amazing.
It's an incredibly well done story, and the difference between that and Halloween is I'm dealing with the gore or whatever is it's related to me to the story, which makes more sense in that this is like an alien creature doing this as opposed to just kind of the manufacturedness of the spree killer kind of idea. So I didn't connect to it seemed to be more Halloween seemed to be more about the violence, and The Thing seemed to be more about the story, but I don't know.
I would argue Halloween. I would argue the original Halloween is more about the suspense.
Could be. And I maybe just can't
and
do it in
Jamie
the
Lee
wrong
Curtis is an amazing
Yes.
heroine in that movie. And I agree with you. A lot of slasher films are cheap and weird, and they're just focused on the killings. And I don't really agree with that. But then you have stuff like Scream, which I don't know if you've seen Scream or like Scream, but like, Scream's kind of like it. It's a great murder mystery.
Yeah. Well, as much as I
And-
dig meta, you know
Yeah.
I have a soft place in my heart for the Scream franchise.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So I mean, I think those are the slasher films that stand out to me, that they have something else to say. But yeah, just slicing and dicing, no, that's not my thing. And that's what the sequels became. And I'll be honest, I don't really like any of the Halloween sequels.
Yeah.
This might have been a little better than some of them, but it, like you said, it's it's not a very good movie.
It has a couple good moments, and it has some interesting ideas. But the interesting ideas it has, it never takes the time to play with them or explore them in any way. So yeah.
No, Dyson, they actually make like hair care products and vacuum cleaners. And so if they ever decided to make some sort of, chopping device for the kitchen, they should call it Slice and Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Well, there is a slicer dicer, believe me, as somebody whose last name is
not
Dicer.
said that on a podcast. You should have just gone and gotten the rights to it.
Oh, crap. I'd be so rich. So this is from Chris. He says, I dislike the 2018 Halloween. It's way better than the Rob Zombie attempt. It's got weird canon issues, but I think this may have been overhyped when it came out. Lots of people saying it was a return to the good form of a Halloween movie, and it just wasn't for me. There's a decently cool scene at the end with Laurie in the house she had constructed waiting for years to kill Michael Myers, but even stuff in that just doesn't make sense. Everyone seems really satisfied that he's dead when they burn the place down. I hated the podcast characters that they threw in, and especially since the story wipes out every Halloween except the first one, the legend of Michael Myers would not be as big as they made it out to be in the movie. They talk about him like a guy who's killed a bunch of people over a bunch of movies, but if you strip away all the others, he killed a handful of people on Halloween, and no one has heard from him since he was sent to Smith's Grove. If there was anything I enjoyed rewinding and figuring out how Lee Huss's character died, and Michael somehow got him all the way upstairs without Laurie hearing it. Especially since just before she walks out to confront him, there is an image of Huss dead outside near the car. I went through it 3 times, if I remember correctly, and there was no good explanation that I could come up with.
Very nice.
He nailed it. But and then and he talks about that a little bit, and we send a bunch about just how it was so ridiculous to me that anybody would want to cover him. Like, he didn't do anything. He killed 5 people. And that's also the movie's fault for choosing to ignore the sequels and be a direct sequel to the original. And then you're just kind of like, well, why would anybody care about Michael Myers other than people that lived in Haddonfield? Like, no one would even know who he was.
By the way, I'll mention this now as a transition into the sins that I liked. Those podcast characters, do you remember this, Danae? Do you remember what their names were? Aaron and Dana.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
When this came out, we had lots of people like, was this based on you guys? Yes. Halloween 2018.
I mean, they nailed those British accents are exactly how you guys sound.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys don't know this. I actually hide my British accent every week.
It's true.
Aaron wears those scarves.
I do. Literally people were like, oh, Aaron and Dana podcast network.
No.
I know who that's. I'm like, no, guys, come on.
So funny.
Other things I enjoyed in the video, movie doesn't know how to lowball. That was really funny. People still think Adnan did it. Really made me laugh, because that was such a craze for a little bit there. At least that kind of sandwich was a nice run. I enjoyed that. Evil isn't...
Was that the one with the peanut butter on your penis?
Yes.
That was so funny.
Yeah. It's so weird, too. It's a weird thing to say.
David Gordon Green directed this, and who wrote the Eastbound and Down? All of a sudden, his name escapes me. Who wrote this? Danny McBride.
Yeah.
And they're really he's really funny, and you could see that scene where the characters makes that comment about the peanut butter on his penis, or the 2 cops talking about the sandwich. It was so weird because it felt like it was just thrown in, for no reason. So I don't know. Sorry.
And then the other movie trailer, evil isn't practical. I just thought that was really funny. The pumpkin obsession lady I thought was great. They didn't have any decorations inside, but 1 million pumpkins on the porch.
67
those decorations. There is no way this town would celebrate Halloween the way they celebrate it.
Right.
There's just no way. I mean, I said, this town would know who Michael Myers was.
In the straight up, fanboyism of the looking down shot was so well delivered. The I need to change my shorts, I think is how it ended.
Yeah, Jeremy read that perfectly. I didn't know how he was going to. I think I just put, do this however you feel like it.
See, it's cool because he's looking down. The whole thing. It was so good.
Yeah. I had a good time with this video. What about you guys?
I really loved the out to the Twitter handle. I laughed at that one.
This been so long since we wrote this, I forgot about that, and I did write that, Chris didn't, but I called out myself. But then somebody mentioned it on Twitter last week, after they saw the video, and I was like, oh, I completely forgot about that.
What you didn't realize is how much of a pervert it made you sound like.
At least this one wasn't pervy. Yeah, no, I just thought that was great because people always ask me why I do the Sam Loomis thing. So in this movie, they just, like, who the hell, like most people that watch this, a lot of people were watching this this was the only Halloween movie they had seen, or if they had only seen I don't know, they just kind of threw the name around like it would mean something to everybody.
Yeah.
And it, I just thought that was a good opportunity to make fun of myself.
Yeah, it works. Definitely works.
Also, I like specifically pointing out how many times that the movie falls apart when you think about how she would have been training for it. There's a lot of sins around that theme, but I really liked all of them as it just sort of like picks apart. Like, why would she be standing where she's standing? Why would she be, doing what she's doing, or pointing out how long it takes for the island to like move? It's like, we'll just stand here for a while and just gonna wait for it to move. So it just really kind of demystified the movie quite a bit.
And how stupid is that plan in the end? Like, to trap him in that way. There's so many easier ways to trap him than to like have to lure him and hope that you can make it back up the stairs.
And it makes no sense. I mean, other than she survived something horrible, but it makes no sense why, because since they took out the sequels, he's not her brother in this movie, which he would have been if they had included at least a couple of the sequels. So you're trying to figure out why he's even coming after her. Like that scene, we didn't even mention it, but that scene where he sees her through the window and recognizes her 40 years later.
Yeah.
Is just so dumb. And then you have the whole twist with the doctor, which is terrible, by the way. But they had to figure out a way to get him to her house. And I don't know, the whole thing just, if you think about this for 2 seconds, I mean, it's worse than a Cars movie. Like, it just completely falls apart immediately the more you think about it. It's crazy.
It was my favorite murder call out in this one. I obviously will always enjoy those. I'm a dick on YouTube. Make sure you eat a sandwich was one of my faves. And there was that sin about, that he's mentioned it already, but I wanted to kind of like break this one open. And the two cops are just eating a sandwich real casually. And I actually thought, this reminds me of Quentin Tarantino. And then the sin pops up and I was like, yeah! I was so proud of myself.
I wanted to eat that sandwich too. Like when he's sitting there describing that peanut butter and jelly sandwich and the other cop's like, gross. I'm like, no, dude, I want to eat that now. Like, where is my peanut butter and jelly sandwich on whatever that bread was called?
Well, I'm just a jerk on YouTube, but go eat that sandwich, man.
I just say, like, one of the really good things about this was there's a kid actor in this, Jabril Nantambu. He is awesome.
Yeah,
we showed that scene with him and his babysitter, play Virginia Gardner, who's also great, who they kill they kill her and like leave like really awful characters, to survive. But there's that scene where he's talking about like, if you were a good babysitter, you'd have me in bed right now. And instead I'm up here clipping my dirty ass toenails or whatever. And he's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing him and other things in the future. That was one of the good points. So I was glad we got to take a son off for that. And I also enjoyed we edited in Donald Pleasance from the original saying, I shot him 6 times. That was something I had written in there, and I was glad we were able to pull that off. Also, the whole thing with them moving him, Chris really jumped on that, and I thought it was brilliant. But the hospital with a 40-year containment streak should not be messed with. Like, why they were even moving him made no sense. And then they're moving him on Halloween or the night before Halloween. Right. Like, you're tempting fate, man. Fate. Oh, and then also us playing with the whole, they've redone that scene 3 times now with a character in a classroom, which is just such, like, it's not even that cool of a scene in the original film. And it kind of made sense when they did the H20, when they redid it with Michelle Williams, but then you do it again. And so I was glad we could show that where we had all 3 of them, up against each other, kind of pointing that part out. That was fun. This was a really fun one to work on. Probably my knowledge of the franchise made it more fun. But I have very good this was a really good one. I'm glad it's finally out there for people to see. I was very proud of it.
One point aside before we head on to the next segment, Michael Smallwood, who has a role in this, did you see the tweet that he sent?
I did. I commented and said I was glad he enjoyed it.
Yeah, he said, in the ongoing story of My Real Life is Weird, I have now been sinned in a CinemaSins videos. As a longtime fan, it's an honor to earn my first sin.
That's
And
cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I think Jeremy replied, "You are welcome, sir. Your performance was great."
Yeah, he's in that one scene, and Chris wrote that sin, and it was so. I remember reviewing the script, and that had me dying because it was just like it was the stethoscope sin for those that don't know what we're talking about. But
so give Michael Smallwood a follow on Twitter. His Twitter handle is @MikeLovesGushers.
I thought you were going to say something about @Sam Loomis 22 or
yeah,
something.
right. Yeah, exactly. @Sam Loomis 12.
I am not the only Sam Loomis.
Yeah, I was going to say there's 12 before you apparently.
The 13 I created. That's my favorite number. But I have seen a few other ones, and there's definitely people that use his picture as their avatar.
All right, let's move on to keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're just going to tell a story from putting together the Sins Week's content, maybe a Google search, some strange research we did, why we're on a TSA watch list, whatever the case may be. Jonathan's going to kick us off. What do you got?
Yeah, I didn't have anything like super exciting, but I did research alpaca rugs. If I can get my thing, I researched alpaca fibers and rugs because that was the whole like the Mitch and Cam subplot on Modern Family, and I didn't really use any of it, but I was looking because there was nothing I could find definitive. But I did find that like they make a whole big deal about how they don't think they can clean it, they don't think they can replace it because it's too expensive, and so instead they're going to pretend like the kid spilt it or whatever, and then hilarity ensues. But I did find out that you could actually get them as cheap as like $300, even like that size. So I don't even know how expensive that would have been. And honestly, I found out they're not that hard to clean. Like you could get a cleaning crew to come in and clean it. It probably would have cost a couple $100, and you would have been good to go. You probably could have done it yourself just watching a YouTube video. And also, you could just move the rug to where the couch is covering the stain. That's what most people would do. And that's probably what they should have done.
I would hope most people would just be honest, just say,
or just be honest.
Oops.
But I'm saying like if she could have done she could have decided to do that. I'm just saying it was just such a ridiculous thing. And there wasn't anything I could really use, but I did spend a good 30, 45 minutes just learning about alpaca, how there's two different alpacas in the United States and how you get the fibers from each of them. And which that was actually kind of sad. And I didn't enjoy reading that part. But not that they're like killing them or anything, but I hate that, like, I don't know, like they're just shaving them like sheep and stuff. But I don't know. It just, for some reason to me, that bothers me a little bit. It just,
as somebody who just recently shaved my dog, was fine.
Yeah.
Great.
You weren't trying to like make a profit off of his body. I don't know. It's fine. I mean, you're not like they're not like ripping hair off them or anything. It's fine. It was just like kind of.
I'm sure that they are not as careful. I'm sure they don't take like 2 hours to shave a small 30-pound dog. I'm sure like when they do their alpacas and they do the sheep, they're very like aggressive with it.
There was a Manscaped ad on one of our videos when I was pulling it up to watch it for this show. Not ours, obviously. I'm talking about it was just like it was a YouTube ad. Yeah,
you just got to make sure you can tell the difference between the alpacas and the Tedpacas. Otherwise, you might be talking about a serial killer.
Yes, I got you. The alpaca bundies.
Yes, exactly. What about you, Danae?
I was trying to figure out an outtake for How I Met Your Mother, and it's one of those super annoying things. I'm not built like Jonathan, where I can sit there for like 12 seconds. You should be happy about that,
FYI.
Be like, oh yeah, that was such and such actor and such movie that came out in such and such year. I hear an echo of a sound of a voice, and then I have to try to identify the voice. And then after that, I'd figure out what movie it came from. And as you know, I forget the movies almost immediately. So it actually requires some level of meditation where I sit still and I try to visualize. It's this whole thing. Anyway, this happened on How I Met Your Mother because there's this moment whenever Ted is thinking about them getting married, and then she turns to him and says that she used to be a man. All I could hear in my mind was, I'm not a man, but I used to be one. That's all I could hear. I could not figure out where it came from. And then after, I'm not even kidding you, I meditated, realized it was Robin Williams' voice. Then I had to figure out what movie that was from. And so I started with The Birdcage, scoured that one, couldn't find it anywhere. And then I was Googling the wrong thing, so they didn't have the phrasing exactly right. I just could kind of hear some of the words. It was very nebulous. Eventually, finally figured out it was from Miss Doubtfire. Didn't figure out what scene it was from because I started with the moment whenever they were doing like the whole like dress up moment. They're trying on the different costumes and all that stuff. The matchmaker. That so then I'm watching this whole freaking movie. I figure out where it came from, and then I got it in the outtakes. It's the most I've ever worked on an outtake.
Also Mrs. Doubtfire is like basically a documentary on divorce. It's perfect. Like they just nail it.
Yeah, exactly what divorce is like.
I don't know what you like. You don't want to be built like me. I assure you. It's not fun when the shirt comes off. There's all kinds of movement and stuff, but that was weird. I do the same thing. I can't speak for like Chris and Jeremy. I know I feel like they just kind of know stuff. Like they're really good with remembering dialogue. I think Aaron is to a point. I'm bad about remembering exact dialogue though. I have to Google. Like I remember bits and pieces like you do, and then I'll just start typing away. And then a lot of the times I find things I never would have thought of though. So I kind of like that I do that because it leads me to different things.
Just to give you, just to make sure you have an understanding, I didn't know the exact phrase. So I was Googling things like used to be a man. Higher voice to deeper voice, like just super.
I bet you found some really helpful articles. Some instructive articles.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. There's like the people that put you on the watch list or whatever. They're going to be like, oh, maybe she's thinking about some gender reassignment or something.
I was really super proud of myself when I found it though, because I knew it would be perfect. I knew what I was looking for. Her turn around and be like, I'm not a man, but I used to be one, which is straight kind of the feel of that moment in the show.
Also, a line of dialogue. Speaking of stuff that doesn't hold up, a line of dialogue that would probably not be in a 2020 movie.
Yeah,
at least not in that tense.
Yeah, it's I think you're right about that for sure. I had a couple that I could go with. I'll just mention Danae, you already mentioned the treasure is buried. The treasure is buried in the that is a joke that Jeremy and I used to do in college. Like anytime there would be one of those moments, we would look at each other and go, the treasure is buried in the like, yeah,
oh,
exactly.
That's cool.
So I knew when I wrote that in there that he would nail it because, he has a sense of where that comes from. And then the other one I'll mention is Caught in the Act. I didn't have to do research on being caught in the act because I have lived it.
I'm so glad you're telling this story.
I have lived it twice. So, yeah.
Here we go.
No, but you told. Do you remember telling me this story?
Oh, I tell anybody that wants to hear this story. I think.
No, I know. It was It was two sin weeks ago.
Okay.
You and Jen, we were at dinner, and
you walked in on him.
No. They told me the story, or he told me the story.
It was our fault. We should have been doing that at the restaurant. We shouldn't have been, doing it at the table. But anyways.
Yeah, but it was But it was just funny when I read the script when Aaron sent the Combine over, and I was like, wait, I've heard this fucking story.
Yeah, so
story. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The story about the sibling who walked in and then you went out and put arm around him. That is a true story from my life. Other than I was wearing pants. I did put pants back on before I went and talked to him.
God.
But I did go out to make sure he was okay. Like it's a thing that happens, but he was young, he's about 6 years younger than I am, and so he was a teenager at the time, and that was his sister, and it's gonna be awkward, but you have to just talk about it. And
put your arm around him though.
I
That's
did,
the part that
of course, yes.
Oh
yeah.
my buddy. And I don't know if you do have to keep this in if this is too much, but like I just thought it was funny when you told that story. The reason I remember that story so well is because you said after he saw you finished and then went and talked to him. Like you made sure to point out.
What
by
other
the way,
choices are there? I'm sorry. Is there another choice?
No. I mean, at that point, you might as well.
Right. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
I have never walked in on anybody. Thank God. My older sister walked in on, oh wait, my mom listens to this sometimes, but she knows that story. But My older sister walked in on them, but I've thankfully never accidentally seen anyone. So
Yeah, I don't think I have
you, Danae?
either.
Nope, not that I know of.
Yay.
I mean, I
We're
might
in
have
the not
blocked
walking
it.
in club.
Yeah, but the other time was a custodian on the cruise ship we were on walked in on us, and I don't know if they knocked and we just weren't paying attention, but we just walked in.
I think you guys really have to lock doors and like.
Well, it was locked. It was the custodian. They have keys.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. So I just remember hearing, "Oh, I'll come back later," and then the door closed. That's all I remember.
I had a friend, a couple of our friends of ours that are married. They got a hotel room, and they gave them the key at this hotel. I don't remember where they were, maybe Vegas. And then they walked in the room, and there were two people in the room that they were supposed to be in. In mid thrust.
Oops.
Were they?
So they had been given the wrong key, huh?
They were having sex when they walked in?
Yeah, they had been given they double booked the room, or they just gave them the wrong room number and wrong key or something. I don't know, but there were already two people in that room, and they were just going to town. Like it was. It was apparently it was a hard visual to get out of their heads for a while. It was there might have been like food or something. I don't know, but
oh my god.
It was like the scene in what's the parody of that? Is it in Hot Shots that like has all the parody of all the food?
It's one of the Hot Shots,
or is it
movies.
Naked
It
Gun?
might be the first one. Yeah,
I can't remember.
But what is that from? What movie is that from that they're parodying?
Well, it's from like 9.5 Weeks, I think.
Oh,
right?
It is 9.5 weeks.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah.
I have been walked in on, and that was a true story, and it's okay. It's okay, people. People have sex. It's a biological function. It's all right. You'll survive. All right, let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
Going to take a look at some of the comments from the videos this week that we wanted to highlight. I've actually playing the role of Danae today. I have 4 of them. So I had 5, but Danae already mentioned one of mine. So, but they're pretty quick. Jonathan, why don't you go first?
I just had a couple. They were both from Halloween, and they were pretty quick. But I just thought they were really funny. One, it was like the first comment. I think it was AJ Jinx said, "At this point, I think I'm the only person who didn't go to the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things."
Yeah, that's a good one.
Which I just thought was really funny. I didn't know how not to mention that. And then later on, Princess Vanessa Annabelle Lockhart, ooh, we're full of ourselves, said, "I see this movie went to the Hollywood School of Wasting Judy Greer," which is very true. That's another, and I'm glad we send that in Halloween because Judy Greer gets wasted way too often.
Yeah, she should lay off the drugs. Oh wait, is that not what we meant?
Probably should.
I'm sorry. I may have.
She's in Hollywood.
I may have misconstrued.
That's all they do. They just do drugs and have sex, right?
That's what I found.
I got to go to Hollywood.
Danae, what about you? What are the comments that you saw?
I've read several kind of as we've been doing the show here, but the one that I saved for the comment section has disappeared from my screen. It's from Lemony Snicket from Lupus. Says the intro to this movie almost led my sister and her friends leaving altogether. The beginning of this movie, it starts off as if it is like that animated claymation elf kind of thing. And I actually was really confused when I was watching it too, because I was like, wait, did I just start watching the wrong one? And then it kind of goes, this isn't the movie you're going to be watching. You're going to be watching something depressing. So Lupus's sister and friend got up in the theater because they thought they had gone into the wrong theater. And as they were about to like walk out, the narrator then kicks in and says, "This isn't the actual movie that we're watching. This is Lemony Snicket." And they turned around and went back to their seat. I just thought that was kind of funny that the movie trolled people.
That is funny.
That is funny.
I had several. I'll go through them pretty quickly. One is a correction that somebody corrected a very obvious mistake. And I'm just saying, if you ever see this mistake in a video of ours, it's my mistake because I do this all the time. I called the fourth wall the third wall. And that's just something that my brain does for some reason. And so I think that was in the Modern Family video. And somebody in the comments was like, it's the fourth wall, not the third wall, ding. I was like, yes, that ding is mine. Thank you. I will take it gladly. And then the one I thought was really funny was Slick Speed Entertainment says, "Is this guy a moth? He clearly likes pointing out how many lamps are in a single room." I thought that was really funny. And
that was one of, by the way, that was one of Jeremy's favorite moments from that entire video. He watched it. When we edited it, he would laugh every time he saw it.
Well, he came over to us and he was like, hey, you guys really got to watch this.
Yeah. I really loved how that came together.
And then a couple discussions that happened that I wanted to mention. Amber says there are too many sins about the documentary crew for a show that has never once mentioned the documentary crew in its 10 plus years on the air. And my thing is, that's the point, Amber. That's why we're sinning it. It is obviously a documentary. They are talking to the camera. There was somebody in the comments that said, and the only time it looks like a documentary is when they're talking to the camera. That's not true. They look at the camera during a lot of those scenes, just like The Office did. There are obviously cameras there, and that's
we didn't even talk about that. That was another great thing about this video was that all that stuff you I think, and you mostly wrote these where like they're still in their room while they're getting dressed.
Yes.
And
After they're caught, the cameraman stays in there and films them having that conversation while they're getting dressed. I mean, think of this.
Yeah.
You know.
And it happens in The Office too. I mean, it happens in any of these where they're having it's like they forget about the documentary crew. And I think in the pilot for Modern Family, we even mentioned the original idea behind that.
Yeah.
What do you remember what it was?
For which one? The Office?
For Modern Family, that the original idea behind the documentary crew.
No.
I'm almost positive we mentioned it in the pilot, though, if anybody wants to go back and watch that.
But I don't know if it was something they said or if it was a fan theory. I can't remember which it was. It seemed like it was like a friend from college or something that was trying to see what it was like to do a documentary. But I can't remember if it was a fan theory or what. But I have been watching recently, I've started watching What We Do in the Shadows. Which is based on the Taika Waititi mockumentary about vampires. And what I love about that movie and that show is they never forget about the camera crew. Like they are they make it a part of the show in a way that you've forgotten about the camera crew, but they haven't. And I love that because that's very smart to be ahead of the audience in that way.
In the movie, don't they do they bite one of the cameramen in the movie?
Oh, that documentary crew has lost several people. Yes, over the course of a couple seasons.
That show is amazing. I'm glad you're watching.
It is really funny. So when you see a show that doesn't care to justify their conceit, it really stands out. And then finally, Alex Paul says, just want to say love that CinemaSins knew the difference between a serial killer and a spree killer. And I think that is a distinction that I, too, was something I was glad to see because lots of times people think of Michael Myers, at least in this movie, as a serial killer, and he's not. He was a spree killer, and he just went on a killing spree. So that's a little bit different. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, we're weirdos. We know that stuff.
That's right. All right, let's move on to Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Let's chat about something else in the world of pop culture that we've been taking on. I did mention What We Did in the Shadows. That was one of my What We Do in the Shadows was one of my possibilities. But since I already kind of said I love that, I'm going to talk about Dave. This is a show on Hulu. Just one season. I think they have a full 10 episodes of a season up there now. It was coming out weekly. And this is an interesting one because it's a show off the bat that you think is just kind of lowest common denominator. It's the concept is that there is a white Jewish young adult who believes he's a great rapper. And so he's kind of trying to get in the rap game, get in, his career going, that kind of thing. And a lot of the comedy is the juxtaposition of the fact that he's not trying to be like street. He's just being himself, but wants to be a rapper. And so the juxtaposition between him and kind of the hip hop culture, those kind of things, is a lot of the humor in this. Plus, there's a lot of sexual humor, lowest common denominator humor. One of the primary plot points is that he has a small penis. That's like one of the primary plot points about this character. What's fascinating about this show, and yes, I said fascinating, so take a drink. What's fascinating about this show is that it takes this lowest common denominator premise and actually does meaningful things with it. And it kind of blew me away. By about episode 5 or 6, there's this moment that happens with one of the characters that is one of the most emotional and powerful moments I've seen in a long time, and kind of blew me away. I was really surprised that this show was able to go there after seeming like it was going to be more of, just kind of crass humor kind of vibe. And so I will say both of those things as warning / recommendation. It is crass humor, but then also I think it's trying to say something. Now, I haven't finished the whole season yet. I still have like 3 episodes left. But I did want to put it out there that I'm having an interesting experience with it. And I'm not sure, maybe this falls in the Rekka Warren category then, maybe is what I'm saying. But it's one of those things where it feels like maybe it's going to land eventually in the recommend because it's kind of making a turn. So I wanted to throw it out there. It's called Dave and it's on Hulu. So
I have not heard of this.
Yeah.
That sounds really fascinating. Take a drink for me too. I haven't heard of this. I don't know if Hulu, I don't know if I just don't watch Hulu as much as I do other things, or if they're advertising through different things, because it seems like there's always something on Hulu when I go on there. I'm like, what is this? I've never heard of this before in my life.
Yeah. So anyways,
I'll check it out.
Rekka Warren, called Dave. Yeah. I almost said something that's kind of spoilery, but I don't want to spoil anything. So
you also like the movie Dave, so I thought that's what you were about to start talking about. You're like, I just rewatched Dave.
Yeah, I really do like the movie Dave, and I really wish we had a president like Dave. Danae, why don't you go next?
Well, we do have an actor.
That's not Dave isn't an actor in that movie. He's just a nice guy.
Is he not? What is he in that movie?
Isn't he just a nice guy that looks like the president?
Like him, right?
Yeah.
He's like what is he?
He impersonates him. Like he's an impersonator. Like he'll light up parties and stuff. But yeah. Danae, what do you got?
Well, I wanted to mention that I talked about Newman last week. I actually caught up. So I was binge read over 200 episodes of the web cartoon Newman. And if anyone else has started, I'm really curious what you think about it. It continues to be something that the plot moves along really quickly and well. And the dynamics of their relationship continues to be very interesting one. And I'm wondering if anyone got triggered by it. So let me know. I'm curious. I also forgot to tell you, Aaron, that after your recommendation for Future Man, I went and watched it because I had to know what you're talking about with the finale.
Was I right?
And I have to agree.
Yes.
That was unexpected and
brilliant.
Perfectly done.
Brilliant.
I got to watch this show. I like learning how sick you two are. So I got to go check this show out.
The plot of the Future Man, it's not something to get super excited about. There's some interesting things that it does. There's some silliness. There's humor. It's definitely not something where you're like, wow, that was amazing. But I understand what you were saying, and I completely agree with you. And I think it might be worth a watch if you're someone who doesn't mind pretty dirty shows.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Future Man, because that is kind of the thing when I talk about Dave, that I thought Dave was going to be, because of the subject matter and kind of how crass it was willing to be, that it was, and it is funny, it's very funny, but then it made a turn that Future Man never makes into actual emotion, and I was like, what? So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a good kind of parallel.
My Beyond the Sins this week is actually going to be an album. I listened to Fiona Apple's new album.
Nice.
And it was getting a lot of attention. It was topping some charts and it was doing some interesting things. And I thought, well, I really haven't invested time in listening to her music beyond the hits that kind of came out at various points. And it is really interesting in a way that I didn't expect to be intrigued by. She does some really interesting things with her voice that I think I would do on an album. If I was going to make an album, just sort of get a little bit goofy and do some interesting things with my range. And I can see myself doing something like that, except for that I don't think she's being goofy. I think she's being very specifically different and challenging the norms of music. And she's doing that with her lyrics too. It's a really in your face, like lyrically, it's very in your face, and it kind of addresses subject matter that I love that she's doing. And I think that there's a bravery in what she's talking about and how she's presenting herself as an artist and her music that I really respect. I can see why people are just kind of rallying behind this album specifically and saying it's worth a listen. And it is very, very different. So I don't think it's going to, I don't anticipate people taking this Beyond the Sins recommendation and being like, man, that album changed my life or something. But it's just, I don't know, it's just something that's just different enough that I think people should kind of pay attention to it. Sort of like recommending maybe they go to a museum and go check out an art exhibit, and it's not going to hit everybody. Maybe they'll be impressed that it's in this museum, that maybe they'll be impressed that somebody tried to go there or even went there in the first place. That's why I'm going to recommend her new album. You would think that I actually would tell you the name of it, but I totally forgot to write it down.
Well, most people should be able to find that pretty. I mean, if you just search for Fiona Apple's new album, I'm sure you'll find it pretty
I've
quick.
listened to it too. I listened to it the week it came out, and I think you nailed it. I think that's a perfect way to describe it. And I listened to it because a lot of people were talking about it.
Yeah, Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
Yes,
Fetch the Bolt Cutters, which is not entirely easy to say.
Yeah, she's playing around. I mean, she's playing around with like music theory, and I mean, she's playing around with all kinds of. It's really fascinating. Like it's
really
just, I don't even know how much I like it, but it's fascinating.
Okay, same. Yeah. Guess it's been 8 years for her next round of music, and you get the really strong feeling that she's saying some very specific things, and it's really, I have to say too, for someone who likes to go kind of deeper down into conversation, there's some really interesting forums too where people are just discussing how the lyrics are making them feel or how a song made them feel. So I don't know. I actually had a really fun time listening to it, and there's definitely some deeper stuff there, but it's also really fun and awkward.
She's super talented, and I think
he's really talented.
Kind of like Prince did when he did Diamonds and Pearls. I think she could go bust out something like that. Like I think she could bust out like an Adele type album or something and just kill it. But I think she's just doing what she wants to do, which she always has been like that, I believe.
It just feels like this one's different. I think there's something that happens, and I guess I can speak to this a little bit, as you get older, that you just stop giving a fuck like you used to. You kind of stop worrying about who you're going to offend, and you just start being yourself. And then, man, shit gets great after that, because the people who stick around you are the ones that really want to hear what you have to say. And this sort of feels like that moment in art and in music. Mm-hmm. So I super respect it. So anyway, it's called Fetch the Bolt Cutters, and you can listen to it on any major platform.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, what do you got?
Yeah, I tweeted about this earlier this week because I had not watched Dead to Me. I'd heard about the Dead to Me show on Netflix with Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini. It came out, I guess, a year ago, the first season. Have you seen it, Aaron?
I have not.
Okay. So I had heard about it. I heard it was really good, and I just hadn't gotten around to watching it. And then earlier this week, not even realizing that the second season was also dropping this week, I decided to start watching it. And I burnt through the first season pretty quickly. It's 10 episodes. They're only 30 minutes each. They're around 30 minutes each. So it's a pretty quick watch. And I'm about halfway through the second season, which dropped on Friday on Netflix. And it is fucking amazing. I don't know how else to say it. It just completely caught me off guard. What I will say about it is Christina Applegate plays a character who Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini, first off, I don't think I've ever seen them better. And they've done a lot of amazing things. And I don't think I've ever seen them better than they are in this. And they're so good together. And Christina Applegate plays a character who has recently lost her husband. He has died, and he was hit by a car. He was a hit and run. And they did not catch the people that did it. And then she goes to a grief counseling group, and she meets a character played by Linda Cardellini, who has saying that who's recently lost her fiance. And then this is all in the first episode. And then and they become friends pretty quickly. And then at the end of the first episode, which is very typical in all these episodes, and I think you will watch it pretty quickly for this alone, is that they basically do a cliffhanger at the end of every episode. And there's a huge one at the end of the first episode. There's a secret that a character has. That's all I'll say. That very much kind of navigates the story the rest of the way. And I don't really want to say anything else about it, because I think that's the beauty of this show, is not knowing anything going in, and then just getting to react to it as we learn things along the way.
Cool.
But Cardellini and Applegate are great. This show deals with friendship, I think, in a really interesting way. I think it also deals with forgiveness in a really interesting way that, like, I don't think I've ever seen a show tackle, because I don't think things are as black and white as most people. I mean, things are definitely not as black and white as most people think they are. I think we're definitely finding that out these days. And I think that forgiveness is a really interesting thing, because I don't really know where I want to go with that, but I don't know. I just feel like the show is very honest about some things that I haven't seen in a lot of other shows that deal with this type of subject matter. I do think it's very, if you've had any loss recently in your life of someone like a spouse or a parent or whatever, I think this show deals with grief in a really honest way as well. So I think Danae would hate this show because it's very emotional. No, I'm just kidding. No, Danae, I think you would like this. I think you'd like,
probably right.
I think you'd like Applegate and Cardellini, especially, but no, but it's an amazing show. I don't go in not knowing as much as you can. Like I said, it's a quick watch. I mean, you'll burn through them pretty quickly. They're right around 30 minutes each, and it's just, I don't know, highest of recommends. It's one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. And I was kind of sad and glad I didn't see it till now, because I was glad that I could just jump right into the second season, because that first season cliffhanger is unreal. So I was glad I didn't have to wait a year to watch how they wrap that up. And I will say, the beginning of the second season, there's a couple of plot points that I started thinking, oh, well, maybe I'm not so happy about the direction this is going. But then immediately they do things with those plot points that make it even more interesting. So yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's awesome.
Very nice. Well, there you go. Dave, Fiona Apple's new album, and Dead to Me.
Can I mention one more thing real quick?
Of course.
Sorry, it's not like a complete recommendation, but I just wanted to mention NBC is doing, Universal NBC is doing a new streaming platform called Peacock.
Yep.
I think it's going to drop in like June or July.
July.
If you're an Xfinity, July.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an Xfinity customer, though, you already have access to it. And but I don't think they're going to have like new shows and movies and stuff like that. But right now, it's just all the back catalog. And one thing I thought was really cool was I was looking at it yesterday, because we're with Xfinity, so we have it, and they have all 7 seasons of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And they have all 3 seasons of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour. And
wow.
That's one of my all-time favorite shows. And I don't know if you know this, but in the US, you can only get the first 5 seasons on DVD, and you can't even get the hour ones.
No, I know.
And so I started watching that yesterday, rewatching that yesterday, and it's awesome.
It's so good. Oh, I guess I'm getting the Peacock. I guess that's happening. Great.
Well, you can just get you'll probably be able to get like a free month.
No, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks. I appreciate the extra $15 a month I'm going to be spending, or whatever it is. That's going to do it for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed, and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I am at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
ENEESAYS.
And he is the aforementioned Sam Loomis 13 on Twitter. So for Jonathan Watkins, Dana Hughes, and myself, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to behindthesinspod@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe or message us at Twitter. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Hey, we're using the video on Discord today.
Good for you. I can't do that on this computer.
Oh, yeah. Damn it. We always forget.
That's fine. You don't need to see me.
Yeah, I don't got to see you.
I mean, if you want to see me, we can go somewhere else.
Well, we can do the Google Hangouts. That's fine. Is that a problem for you, Danae?
Yeah, I don't want to see Aaron.
Okay.
Where is he? I don't even hear him.
That's because I'm not talking.
All right, I'm joining. I'm muting. I'm joining. I'm muting. I'm joining. Bueller.
I've got a lot of drugs at my house right now.
Yeah?
Why?
We just bought some Tylenol. It's one of the big ones,
Is it the good stuff, though? Like
extra strength, man.
Is it extra?
That's cool. I was taking my medicine, and I almost accidentally took my nighttime medicine instead of my daytime.
Tell Jonathan about the day we both took painkillers before our radio show.
Oh my God, that was so freaking dumb. Yeah.
No, it was like a test, like to see what it would do.
No. We purposely took it to address pain.
Oh.
We both had an adverse reaction to the pain medicine, and we had the it was probably
what was that?
Were you in a car accident, or like how did you guys both have pain at the same time?
I don't remember.
Oh, we both. Remember? You had a migraine or something, and I was dealing with. I just had
pain or
some sort of adjustment or something.
It always has some kind of a pain going on.
Tell him what those adverse effects were, Danae.
So we were before we realized what was happening. We were arguing back and forth. Like, he was being so mean to me, and he's never like that. So, and then I was getting really upset.
Yeah, Aaron's really mean. Like, naturally.
I mean, like he had he had a face on that I've never really seen before, but he was like just snarling, and he was like, his eyebrows are down real low, and he was just hurt. Oh, and then the thing that really threw me off, and this is why I started reading up on the side effects of the medication that we decided to take at the same time, is that he got tired. Aaron never takes he hates naps.
I hate naps.
Keep in mind, like, our recording studio is inside the house.
Yeah.
So there's a nearby couch. So he's like, I'm going to go take a nap. I'm like, what? We're working. We still have work to do. But I was like, whatever. So he goes and takes a nap, and I was so pissed. I didn't know why I was getting pissed, but I was getting mad. And then he wakes up, and then he was mad when he woke up, because when he sleeps, he gets mad. And I didn't know that part. He wakes up and he's even more upset. And then we start arguing about the amount of work we have to do because we didn't do our work before we took.
And we're like blaming
drugs.
Each other and yelling at each other.
It's your fault. And then I'm like, something's wrong. And I happen to just start reading up on the side effects of the medication, which is, of course, irritability was high on the list. It's like, yeah, my headache is much better, but now I'm mad.
Now I hate you.
And it's really, really hard to push through when you're supposed to be creative and do a fun radio morning show where people don't want to tune in and hear two people bitching at each other.
I don't know.
So
that might be interesting.
It took us all day to do a show. It was bad.
The Christian station too, right?
Yeah.
So you had to be all like, welcome everybody. God's here.
Yeah. How did you know that's how we started our show every morning, Jonathan? How did you know that was our catchphrase?
Randomly.
Good morning, everybody. God's here. When we were doing the syndicated show, we kind of could do that on our own schedule a little bit.
We could, for example, do drugs, get sleepy, take naps, be pissed off, argue with each other, and then find a way to rally, do a radio show, and turn it in by the next day.
Nice.
And listen,
so dumb.
Nobody knew. Nobody who listened to that show knew, because we're great. We were amazing.
Oh my God.
That's a very common radio thing that a lot of people don't know about.
I mean, well, sometimes you just have a bad day, but you've got to be on it like every morning. You got to be ready.
And there are a lot of mismatched teams, radio teams, where they just put on the face and behind the scenes.
Well, and I think a lot of people too. It's like they think they're the big one. They're the star, and the other person thinks they're the star, and
we've talked about this, but it is a type of marriage, right? Like, and so in marriages, if you let the little stuff get to you, or you don't get along, that turns deep really fast. So
I don't know. I can't imagine anybody being that put off by you.
Well, here's how people get put off by me. Here's about how people get put off by me. It's because I have walls that I put up that are, I'm not mean. I'm just aloof or distant, or it doesn't feel like I'm invested in the relationship, So
unless you are like,
maybe she wanted to hit it and you found out you were married. I don't think Aaron would know if somebody was flirting with him. I think Aaron's
no
that
clue.
guy.
No, I would have no clue.
I honestly don't. I'm not good at that.
Danae's actually told me before that she thought someone was hitting on me. I was like, what?
Yeah, because we would go to radio stuff and someone would come up and talk to him, and I'm like, she was super into you, and Aaron would be like,
what?
Say, well, the first clue was when she stripped naked, right? Like, that's clue one.
That's just what everybody does. That's just my normal thing when I go to those things.
What's really crazy about like our radio journey together is that when I first started working with Aaron, he was really like quiet to me, and he was very distant.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Never really bothered me because I'm the kind of person that like will talk to anybody, and I don't get too worked up about that kind of stuff. Also, there's always a way to have fun. There's always a way to talk to somebody. There's always like some kind of a way to have a conversation, have a laugh. And I would realize, I don't know, maybe kind of well into our first year that what was really going on is that Aaron had been taught that you can't be friends with women.
Yep.
So, but then as we were doing the show, he liked me as a friend and wanted to be friends, but like that's not allowed in like a lot of Christian culture.
And by the way, this isn't some sort of like
I've never heard this before. That's a Christian belief.
No. Hold on. Let me clarify. It's not like it's a rule in a book somewhere, although somebody's book may have that in there. It's more of an attitude of you don't want to have.
It really is a rule in a book.
Well, yeah, but there's this real thing about emotional affairs. This idea that if you connect to someone of the opposite gender, that you're having an affair even if you aren't sleeping together. You know what I mean? Like there's this idea that if you're friends with someone of the opposite gender, then you're allowing yourself, a pathway to sin or whatever the case may be.
To be fair, you don't see a lot of friendships like the two of you where
No, I know.
where people aren't married or haven't dated before.
Here's the thing. It's in a lot of places. There's a lot of people that have that. I mean, like, you look at a lot of shows that are really popular. They have people that are really like comfortable, but in the Christian world, it's super, super scary because everything you do can be misperceived that you're having an affair of some kind. And so, like, we weren't allowed to be in the same vehicle together. We weren't allowed to be in the same room together unless there were windows and like things like that, which coming from like a non-Christian culture of like being a professional in like corporate America type thing. I'm just like, guys, you're making this really, really hard. But anyway, Aaron, so at one point Aaron was like, he's like, do you think that guys and girls can be friends? And I'm like,
I like the idea though, like if there weren't windows in the room, Danae's just jumping on you or something.
Right?
That's what people are thinking.
She said that to our bosses. She said, didn't you?
I really did.
Yeah, she was like, what do you think? I'm just dropping to my knees when the door closes or something like that. I can't remember exactly what your words were, but
I said that. I was so pissed at this point because my work and my productivity and my character was being called into question because I wanted to be able to close the office that Aaron and I shared with windows to other rooms and like not be bothered so I could get my work done. And people were very concerned about that. They went and complained and all this stuff. And so my boss comes into the room and he kind of closes the door because it's okay if someone else is in there, but it can't just be the two of us together, Aaron and I. He says, well, I've had a couple complaints and, we really need to keep this door open. And I turned to him and I was like, what do you think I'm doing? Dropping to my knees and sucking his dick? That's what I actually said.
I think you actually said that. I think you did.
Oh, I did.
That's awesome.
Because at that point, I'm like, someone just fire me. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
They didn't. They didn't fire me.
Will you fire me if I suck your dick, sir? Like, I had 13 years of Church of Christ school, so we couldn't have dances. You couldn't wear shorts. Like, apparently, if you wore shorts to class, you were going to hell, I guess. I never could figure that one out.
You're not being holy, and holy means that nothing is showing,
I think there is there's a fundamental misunderstanding. I'm gonna get a little philosophical here for a second. Imagine that me. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of people of faith between what it means when it talks about holiness and the idea of living a life that is, or trying to live, your best life as far as not doing things that are wrong, that kind of thing. And they think it's about protecting yourself and putting up walls against the things that can make you do bad things instead of changing the way you think, right?
Yeah.
And here's the major problem with that is that most religious people think that the woman in general is just one big temptation.
Right, exactly.
That's
so you separate yourself from temptation instead of working on the understanding of how you see the world around you. So instead of you don't see any movies with naked bodies in them because that might be temptation. Instead of thinking, well, how can I look at a naked body and still think purely about that experience, or still have an understanding of what that body is and what it means, or you know what I mean? Like there's just
let me know when you find out. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
It's kind of like oh, you can find someone attractive and not touch them.
Yeah, right? My parents wander the earth.
Good for them.
Yeah, no, I love it. They actually, I don't know if I've.
Do they have an RV?
No. They instead of, because my dad is a pastor, and oftentimes churches have what are called parsonages for the pastor, where they don't have to buy a home; they just have a home to live in, right? So instead of investing in a mortgage or a house that they own, they've invested in enough timeshare that they can live in timeshare year round. So they have,
nice.
Right? So they own enough timeshare that they, if they play the system correctly, which they know how to do, they just go from place to place. Add to that my mom specifically got a job at Delta for exactly 10 years. So she has lifetime flying benefits for Delta. So they can fly anywhere for free and then stay.
So they just have like the clothes, like they have clothes, like maybe a few knickknacks or something they travel with.
That's it. Just their clothes and a few things.
Well, that's like, you hear about people that retire that have enough. I don't know how you have enough money to do this. If you do, God bless you. But like when I took a cruise, I found out that that's a thing too, where older people, once they retire, they'll just go from cruise ship they'll just stay on a cruise basically for like 3 years.
Well, here's the thing they realized. Think of all the things they don't pay for. Because they're already at a timeshare, they don't pay any utilities. They don't pay for paper products. All they really have to pay for is their food. Like it's, the laundry detergent, dish
they
detergent.
had to pay for the timeshare at some point.
Well, but it's an ownership thing, right? So once that's paid for, it's like owning a house.
Listening to the finale of the NAD pod that I've talked about, and the characters are all leveled up to like the highest level that they can be, and in their final battle right now. I actually have about an hour left, and then it's the wrap up. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I want to get back to it so badly. Of course, this is really important. Anyway, as you're talking about what your parents did, Aaron, I think that's what these players are doing in this game, is they're figuring out how to maximize all of their abilities. For example, one of them can hit twice, but then he takes this extra feat to be able to hit 4 times. And then because of this spell, he can do extra damage. And then of this and this, and like they keep maximizing so that they're doing crazy amounts of damage and these incredible things. And it's just like it's mind blowing to listen to, because when you play Dungeons and Dragons, as you get higher and higher and higher, you have more and more things to remember, like all the spells and all of the nuances of all the stuff and how they can interact together to maximize your damage or whatever. And I never think about people in real life doing that, but your parents super did that. They're like, how can we work this system where we don't have to have a mortgage? We also can fly anywhere in the world for free. I know. I'm going to put 10 years of my life to this job to do this. Like, it's just mind blowing to me. It's amazing.
My mom worked two jobs, one at Delta and the other one, also specific, she got a job at Disney so that she could get all her grandkids in for free for the time when they were growing up. So like it's kind of, and you wonder why I see the world as systems, it's just where I get it. My parents' plan is a great plan in all ways, except when there's a global pandemic. And then it gets really complicated because all those places
they
shut
just kind of
down.
stuck somewhere now?
Yeah, they have a cabin they built in the woods in Indiana. I'm not kidding. They built a cabin in the woods in Indiana that's just a cabin. And so they're shacked up there, until they can be at resorts again.
My wife forgot that the mat was still out there because they had been on earlier, so I had to go out there and get it, and it was a huge pain in the ass. I've trying to fight with a 24-foot tumble track while there's like high winds, and I poked a hole in it.
Ooh.
It's like a $1,200 track too.
Shoot.
And so my wife was not happy with me, but
Happy Mother's Day.
I had to patch it the other day, which you would think would be the easiest thing in the world. It took me like 2 hours to put this goddamn patch on because I'm not good at stuff like that, and I get so easily frustrated.
Yeah.
And but I fixed it, and I put air in it today, and it was holding up, so I think I did it. But
good job.
But
good job.
they lie to you about like how long it takes the glue to set, and like they don't know. They're like glue's gonna set in like 3 minutes. It didn't. Yeah, it was more like 30.
Thing. They don't know.
And I'm already trying to put it on there, and it's not sticking. And I'm like, my neighbors probably heard me screaming and probably thought something was going on. And I don't know.
They're not here. They don't know me.
Yeah.
They don't know what it takes. Let me say this for Mother's Day. I need to honor Jen, the mother in our house, over this time where she's still been working, even when she's at home. She works from home every other week right now. She has built a stand for the washer and dryer, built a stand for our second couch, so it's stadium seating in our theater room. She's carpeted that stand. She has sanded the deck, stained the entire deck, and as well as I'm sure 3 or 4 things I'm forgetting. She's just like and she's tearing out our downstairs shower to put in a new shower.
She's
downstairs.
actually putting in the shower, and you didn't hire. I thought you had somebody come or did you piss that guy off?
She woke up.
I'm not shaking his hand.
Listen, yeah, that's it. That's right. She woke up in the middle of the night a couple nights ago and was like, "I can do the shower. I know I can do the shower. And she couldn't get back to sleep because she was planning and so excited about doing the shower on her. Like, she is DIY.
It's amazing.
I told her, I said, I didn't even know I was getting this as part of the package when I married you. Like, I had no clue you were a DIY person. This is amazing.
I wanted to let you know that somebody wrote me on Discord about our episode last week and said that how Lolly remembers to spell necessary is never eat cheese, eat salmon sandwiches, and remain young.
Wow.
That's the world's worst mnemonic device ever. Like, not only is it so long I'll never remember it, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I love salmon. It's perfect. Never eat cheese. Eat salmon sandwiches and stay young.
Look, if it works, it works. If it works,
what was the science one? What was the order of the order? It was like King Philip came over from Great Spain. Did you guys do that?
No.
So it was kingdom, phylum, class, order.
What?
I know there's
family,
a planet one.
Genus, species. I still remember that. Like
it's crazy.
35 years later.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's a planet one. What's the
planet
order
one? Of it's like the grouping and like
biological
species
and stuff. Yeah.
The mnemonic for planets. My very eager mother just served us 9 pizzas.
Yes.
What is it now, though?
Yeah, that's right.
Or is Pluto a planet now again?
I don't know.
I will say this. I had to ask that question because my daughter I'm doing I'm a homeschool teacher now too, which is I'm so qualified.
Aren't we all?
By the way.
Aren't we all?
She had a planet thing though, and I had to ask her that. Like, are they including Pluto? And she just looked at me like I was an idiot. She's like, "Yeah."
Okay, so
like 4 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been the case. So
now the mnemonic is my very epic mother just served us nachos.
No, there you
from
go.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune.
There you go.
said Uranus.
And let's start the show.
Yeah, I laughed about that too. My daughter didn't know why that was funny.
After these messages, she'll be right back. Good dog.
That is the phase where things about butt, the word butt, everything about butt is just kind of funny. I don't know how long this lasts because I'm still laughing and I'm not 3. So she's
Uranus never gets old.